Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We are bellying up to the bar with, I'm going to say, podcast legend, entrepreneur, foodie, could be my brother from another mother, down in hot Atlanta, down there where my favorite pizza place on the planet is, where the first place I ever had a Scotch egg. If you don't know what that is, it will change your life. The birthplace of the Buckhead Bounce, which a brother can bounce. Look, I mean, you didn't know it. For those of you who don't know it, brother used to go to the club and bounce. We have with us Mr. S.A. Grant.
Oh man, I appreciate you having me on the show, Sean. Man, that was hilarious.
You didn't know brother Buckhead Bounce, did you?
Look,
Shit.
Hey, as long as also your ass in the screen and you're doing booty shakes, we're good.
No, there will be no twerking on this end. My twerk date, I will throw my back out and we will be done. There will be they'll be like, oh, what happened to him? We don't even get the show no more. He done blown his whole back out on his own.
No, you gotta do it from the hospital. That's all, man. You gotta do it.
It'll be straight up from the hospital bed. So, brother, I've been looking forward to this. For those of you that don't know S.A., you got to check out Boss Uncaged. That is his podcast. We're going to run his website. We'll run that along the bottom. So bossuncaged.com to check out S.A., and then he's got his podcast at podcast.bossuncaged.com. But let's go ahead and get our house cleaning done, all the important things out of the way real quick here, folks. So first and foremost, behind my right shoulder, I forgot what I was going to say. Behind my right shoulder, we've got our sticker and a cause. If you've got something you believe in, something you're supporting, I don't care what it is, whether you've got your own podcast, whether you've got a charitable organization, I don't care if it's little league baseball. I don't care. Reach out to us at the Above the Bar podcast on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Even our email is theabovethebarpodcast@gmail.com, or our parent network, the Earplug Podcast Network. And let me know what you're supporting. I'll give you the address where to send everything to, my home address. You send me the sticker. I put it on the board and we talk about it. Again, that's sticker and a cause. Now, the next thing is maybe your media is feeling a little caged up and you need to uncage it. Well, then you need to speak to Media by Dibs. That's DIBS. You can find him on Facebook at Media by Dibs. Instagram is Media by Dibs. Or if you go on the LinkedIn, it's Andrew Dibble. And you go ahead and mention him belly up to the bar. He's going to give you a free consultation and 10% off of your first order. That's Media by Dibs. All right. Homework is done. House cleaning is ready. It's time for me and Mr. S.A. to get into it. Mr. S.A. Grant, welcome back to the bar, brother.
I definitely appreciate you having me, man. I've been looking forward to it as well, too. Like all day long, I was like, I had other podcasts today, and I was like, okay, I got to make sure I'm ready to go by 8 o'clock tonight. So got my drink in hand, and I'm ready to get all rolling, brother.
Now, what are you hitting us up with tonight? Now, I'm still on my Helderberg bourbon, New Scotland spirits. What you killing us with tonight?
Sexton Irish whiskey. It's a rated 89 point, so it's definitely pretty smooth for an Irish whiskey. I mean, usually you get some shit and it tastes like gasoline, but it's smooth all day.
So I'm 50-50 on Irish whiskey. Now, do you normally drink Irish whiskey? Is that what your preferred is?
My preferred is Japanese.
Oh, now what is that? If I could find the bottles over in my bottle stack, there's a Japanese blend that I really like. God, I'll have to look it up. But what's your go-to Japanese?
I always forget how to pronounce it. I think it's Shatori.
Now, there's a couple of those Japanese that are like crazy expensive, like insane.
Yeah,
like
some of them, especially when they had the drought. They had a drought like maybe 3-4 years ago, and it was kind of like the demand went through the roof.
Now, we're going to talk about Boss Uncaged, but I want to bring that up with this whole fake shortages for bourbons especially. They've been bad about it. What's your take on that? Like, do you buy into it? Like, oh man, I gotta pick up on as much of this as I can because there's this crazy shortage, or do you kind of go, I don't care?
No, I mean, I'm an abstract thinker, so I'm just kind of like, why the fuck am I going to pay a premium for something that I usually get at base price? So I'm just going to find something else and switch it over, and then obviously the demand is going to drop down, and then the void will fall, and then the prices will fall. It's just like gas and everything else, man. So once you understand the business behind shit, you don't fall for it.
I 100% agree with that. Like, there's a great documentary called Neat. I've talked about it a bunch of times
Mm,
on the show, and it's about bourbon. But they actually talk about how the bourbon industry was dying, and there was this guy who figured out that one of the people were like, "Hey, what do you want me to do with this barrel? It's like it's been sitting for so long in the back corner that the angels have gotten more than their fair share. Do you want to buy?" And the guy was like, "Really?"
hmm,
And he realized it was a marketing tool that he could be like, "This is single barrel. Nobody else, no other ones. It's not
mm,
blended with nothing." And people were like, "Oh my God, I've got to have this. I've got it. I've
yeah.
got it. I've got to drink it." And Heaven's Hill does that. And
Mm.
you ever had Heaven's Hill?
Yeah, I think you after you had told me about it, I got me a bottle of it.
Well, what'd you think?
It's smooth, man. I mean, I got no complaints. I mean, it's one of those things, man. If you just love bourbon, you love scotch, and you love whiskey, it's kind of like once you find those gems, you just stick to them.
That's you know what? I think that's exactly it. It's like your favorite pizza. Like once you got your spot, nobody else anything anybody else tells you, you're like, yeah, that's bullshit. That's not my stuff. But I gotta ask you, let's talk about pizza for a minute.
All right.
Antico pizza.
See,
Bro,
I'm a
bro.
native New Yorker, so I mean, and I know you up there right now, but for me, it's always going to be like the pizzeria at Brighton Beach or Coney Island. Like that's always going to be my favorite pizza. I grew up on that in high school, after school, every day, going and picking that up. So it's the nostalgia of that is not going to be able to be outmatched anywhere else.
I'm with you, but God, that that Antico pizza,
Mm,
that's on another level, bro.
mm.
Have you had it?
Nope, have not. Where's it
Oh.
located at in Atlanta?
Um, it was like this Italian little corner where like across the street from it was an Italian deli, and there was like they had a gelato place right next to it also. It was just I can't say enough good stuff about that particular place. Like if you've never been, highly recommended. As I'm letting you know, I'm sharing this to like Boss Uncaged book page. This is going on Uncaged Foodies right now. Make sure you're checking out all SA stuff. If you're a food junkie like me, uh, he's putting on some stuff on there that I can't even make the fat kid in my soul get hungry every time. So I highly recommend you check out all SA stuff. But let's talk about that for a second. Like, what
Yeah.
is Boss Uncaged? Let's talk about that for a minute. What is Boss Uncaged?
Well, coming from like a brand standpoint, like when I had to kind of rebrand and kind of come up with this new image of what I was planning on doing, I had to kind of first of all figure it out like phonetically, and I wanted it to be like simple words that can define multiple different things. So I wanted a 5-year-old to be able to spell it, right? So that's the first part about being boss. The other part of that is like, usually 9 out of 10 boss is a self-defined thing. Either you have a boss or you want to become a boss or you are a boss. And again, my original community I was talking to were people that were underneath the regime of a boss and they wanted to break out of that cage. They wanted to break out of corporate America and to become uncaged. And then that kind of evolved into, okay, like, well, even as a boss, there's opportunities for you to become more than what you are currently right now. Like, what is your legacy? What are you leaving behind? And that's more of a long term being uncaged.
Now you bring up a great point when you say a boss leaving their legacy behind. What does that mean for you?
So for me, like, I mean, literally, like post stroke back in 2018, and then I
Well,
woke up in the
hold
hospital.
on, give that piece to it because you can't gloss over that. I know what
Okay.
that's about. Don't gloss that.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, like literally, I mean, back when I first started, my first business was like back in 2000, and I jumped into multiple different disciplines, right? I mean, I'm a graphic designer by degree, web designer, multimedia specialist by degree, and then after that, I was like more of an IT professional by trade. And then I was like, okay, this is great. I'm gonna start my own business. I'm gonna go work for some people, and I'm gonna learn. So I started working for like major corporations like Comcast, working for Apple, and I would work 6 months, 3 months, and I was just literally learning their systems and bringing it back to my business. And I was doing that forever. And then in addition to that, I went through a custody battle and got primary full custody of my son when he was 5, and now he's 16. So just life happened. And I'm doing all these different things, and I'm becoming a travel agent, and I became an insurance agent. And for me, it was more so I didn't realize I was left brain and right brain equally. So on the right brain side, I was trying to figure out things, and on the left brain side, I was trying to bring them together. And I was like, I'm going to build this huge metropolis of a company, and I'm going to get all these components. And then 2018 happened, and I was burning the candlestick on both ends, not sleeping, not taking care of myself. And literally, I woke up in the damn hospital with a hole in my leg, a stent in my head, and was recovering from a stroke.
Brother, that's incredible. So what kind of eye opener was that for you, other than obviously life is a precious thing, but
Yeah.
what was that for you to be like, oh shit, I almost lost it?
Well, more importantly for me is kind of like I took real pride when I got primary custody of my son. So from the time that I got him, I started like devising plans to become a full-time entrepreneur and leaving behind information or nuggets or legacy for him way before I was a podcaster. So when that happened, I was like, shit, I spent all this fucking time developing this business, developing companies and helping people, but I was not leaving the blueprint or the documentation to give to him for him to succeed me once I passed away, or for his kids to take it over once I passed away. And that's like, I was like, that's a big no-no. Like, that's how companies fall apart. If you don't have the documentation to teach someone how to run that shit, then it falls apart. And that's when my girlfriend at the time, was my wife right now, was like, well, it was time for you to rebrand yourself and do what you do for other companies, and time for you to step in front of the limelight. And at the time I was like, well, I could become a YouTuber, or I could become a podcaster. And I may not seem like it, but I was an introvert at the time. And I was like, well, shit, I'm gonna take the latter. Fuck that camera shit. I'm gonna stay on the microphone and I'm gonna become a podcaster. And obviously since then things have changed, right?
Now, I try to explain this to people all the time. They're always like, you can't be an introvert and want to be on the mic and be in front of the camera. Yes, you can. I'm going to tell you that most of your celebrities, Hollywood, any of those people, I would even, my wife would argue with me and say I'm not an introvert. But as I understand the term more, I don't keep a lot of people around me. My close net group is small, but my outside persona, I feel more comfortable if I let everybody know I'm there. That's, oh yeah, he's over there, and then I can just kind of disappear and fade into the background.
Yeah.
That's my introvert. You know, and it's different. So, but now you say that so you started off just pure podcast, like just pure audio.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because at least I had enough in insight to say, okay, I'm going to start recording videos. So like now, like my team, we're editing videos from season 1 and season 2. We're on season 4, and we're so I like that, because now I have like quadruple marketing. I'm still marketing season 1 as much as I'm marketing season 4, and everything is overlapping. So like when you look on the internet, you're going to see me everywhere, because again, so much damn content is coming out, and I didn't release any videos in year 1 or year 2.
So if they're looking for video year 1, 2, it's a pure audio side. What made you with your, so I always wanted to put out the videos, and you kind of talked about that. We were talking about this before, and S.A was asking me how I like StreamYard. And for those of you that are watching our live right now, I'm not getting no money. StreamYard, if you're watching, you come pay me, motherfucker, because I hype you more than anybody. You need to come find me and pay me. I've actually reached out to them before and was like, hey, do you have like official sponsors? Like, do you sponsor any podcasts? And they're like, no, we're thinking about it. I'm like, you're playing games with my emotions. You need to, you need to sponsor me, because I talk you up a lot. But that's what, if you're watching the live right now, that's what you're watching this one. This is StreamYard. It is way better than Zoom. It is way better than, my first ones were Skype. I used to do my record on Skype because I wanted to do an hour show and I didn't want to pay for Zoom, and Zoom was 40 minutes. Skype was free. Can't tell you how many times people were like, I think I got Skype. Let me go look for my password. But they always found it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's like, all right, because they wanted to record. But I always wanted to do an audio and a visual because that's the other side. Like, I look good. I'm a good looking person. I think you should see me. That's just me. So, but what was your catalyst to kind of say, okay, now I'm going to do this video side?
Well, I mean, for me, it was more so like I take a lot of action on whatever I'm going to do, but I'm also a perfectionist as well. So for me, I wanted to kind of own the craft of becoming a podcaster. Like I wanted to live and breathe that shit in and out to the point to where in a couple years, then people will be like, yeah, S.A, he's a great host or he's a great podcaster. And then once I started hearing, okay, like I haven't heard that question before in another podcast. Somebody has never did this before in a podcast. The way you interview, the way you listen, the way you bring back questions. When I started hearing that routinely, then I was like, okay, I've kind of started to articulate my craft. Now let me put some other information out there on another platform and start a secondary audience. Because again, obviously YouTube is going to be completely different than podcasting, completely different target audience. So for the YouTube people, they're just seeing me for the first time essentially and saying, oh, okay. And then they're going to follow and then catch up eventually.
Now you bring up the YouTube piece. Do you think, and I was just having this conversation, do you think that the term podcast has changed? And what I mean by that is originally it was a pure audio medium. It was listening to it. And I still, like, I've got a handful that I love. Like there's Boss Uncaged. I love it. And if you're looking for a great one, make sure you check out podcast.bossuncaged.com and you can get all SA stuff, or go to bossuncaged.com.
Yes.
Make sure that check clears, brother. Make sure the check clears.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding. But now I really feel like podcasts are video audio mediums. You got to have both. If you don't have both, you're probably doing yourself dirty in some way.
I think that's partially true. I mean, it's to the point to where media, if you don't have the omnipresence, and this is the debatable conversation we're having, right? Because there's some people, they're hell bent on their one idea of that platform, and they want to stay on that platform. They know that platform. They're converting on that platform. But what I always tell people is, like, if you don't start working on your omnipresence, then one of those platforms are going to fail. Imagine if someone was still holding on to fucking MySpace. Where would that podcast be? Where would that person be right now if they held on to that shit with all their identity, and then that platform flops, and then now they're trying to catch up on other platforms? At least start. Like, if you're not doing TikTok all the time, at least have a TikTok account. At least put a video every once in a damn blue moon. So once you figure out how to use it, then you just roll into it. It's not starting from scratch. And then when somebody looks at when was it created, at least it was created for a couple years, or 2, 3, 4 years before you actually really started using it.
Did you ever get in a fight with somebody about not being on their five, or them, or you having to swap somebody out on the 5 on MySpace? You remember that? Why
I mean,
on your
I
5?
remember it, but it was like, I think the day that Facebook became a reality, it was just kind of like MySpace just, they couldn't catch up. It was just like,
No.
They couldn't. It's the same thing with all the other platforms right now. I mean, obviously, who thought that TikTok was going to outweigh Instagram or even outweigh like the other platforms that are out there right now? It just kind of happened overnight.
Now, Ray Gagnon, Master Guns Gagnon, he comes on all the time and hangs out. He's one of my mentors when it comes to sales and business. And Ray, I just sent you a text if you didn't see it. I want to talk to you about something. I'm looking at a franchise personally, but he asked, "What is Omni?" I know what you mean by Omni. Tell him what you're meaning by that.
So, I mean, literally, once you get into the marketing game, like that's the epitome of what you want. You want someone to be able to see you no matter where you are. If you go to LinkedIn and you search for the name, they're there and they have content that's fresh and is being used there. And then you go to Twitter and you see their name. You go to Google and you type it in and you'll see all the. So it's essentially, it's like an octopus with tentacles that's just spitting out this content on multiple different platforms. And you get to the point to where the algorithms start working for you. And then no matter where you go, you'll see everything that person is creating, especially if you're logging into those platforms.
It's like an omni. When you're saying omni, you're saying omnipresence on all platforms, everywhere. Like I should be able to go in right now and type in Boss Uncaged. Chanel Lee Grant, S.A. Grant is going to pop for me. I know it.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to Google right now, and if you're a listener right now, just go to Google and type in Boss Uncaged. And the goal is like I dominate the first 3 to 4, 5 pages, and there are variables of me being on podcasts, like you're saying, like my book club or my food group. And again, everything, I'm a brander, so everything is branded under that umbrella of being Boss Uncaged. So by default, I'm dominating in that keyword structure to where no matter where you go or search for it, I should show up. If I don't, send me a damn email and I'll fix it in 24 hours.
And he's not kidding. So to give you kind of background how S.A. and I met, we were introduced. I believe it was Jessica Gruber that introduced us.
Yep.
Jessica introduced us. For those of you that remember Jessica, she's been on. She has her show called Paid, where she talks about how God has paid the path for people's lives and set them on a path. So make sure you check her show out. But she introduced us. And I think we went from what was supposed to be a 30-minute conversation to talking for well over an hour. And I even went back and looked at some of the ways I was doing things after that and said, I've got to adjust stuff because you're very successful. But you've figured out ways that, trust me, Jessica, and I'm the worst. I'm going to promise you I'm the worst. I'm the guy who I need a website. I know I need a website. I really have to get this done. Please don't ask me what I want on it. Please don't ask me I'm the guy who really needs to. I can tell you what it looks like in my head. I can't tell you how to get it there. And Jessica's so awesome. She's been trying to help me, but I'm like, can I get what was the one? Can I get a Firefly? Can I get the Firefly website? Like, just like throw on some pictures and the shit works. I don't know what I'm doing, but S.A. really pushed me that this is something I need. But you figured out some are you comfortable talking about some of your monetizing for your, like, I think this is so huge the way you have figured out, and I'm going to do some of this. You have figured out how to monetize your podcast in the most unique way that I've ever heard of.
So I guess my question is, which one are you talking about?
Well, you could talk about all of them, but I like the way you monetize for right now. If I wanted to be on your show, I can go get on your show.
Yep.
But it's 270 days before my show's going to air, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I feel so strongly about what I'm doing, Ray, I hope you're still listening, brother, because this is an important one. But if I feel so strongly about what I'm doing and I need the S.A. Grant Boss Uncaged brand to take me and push my content out, I can get it in 3 days, right?
Correct.
What is that going to take, though?
So, I mean, when I first came up with that idea, it was kind of like, when it comes to monetization of podcasts, it's always like micro monetization. It's never going to be like you're going to get $1 million right now for doing whatever, unless you're Joe Rogan and you get a contract. So you're going to have to kind of think about, like, how do I scale? So for me, it was like, okay, season 1 was great. We had 20-something episodes, and I was trying to contact people through my Rolodex. Season 2 was my Rolodex and referrals. And by the end of season 2, I started learning more about what I call them podcast recruiters. And then I was like, well, what the fuck is a podcast recruiter? How does that shit even, who the hell's paying to be on a podcast? And I'm looking and I'm getting emails left and right, because at that point in time, I wasn't really checking my analytics per se, because I was so busy learning my craft. Come to find out, like, the show was ranked at 10%, then it was ranked at 5%, and it was ranked top 1%. And right now we're ranked 0.5. So where we are right now, the podcast recruiters are going through their algorithms and they're searching databases for top podcasters. And they're looking for essentially 3 things. 1, you have 100 episodes. 2, you're ranked on listen notes within the top 5%. And then the last thing essentially is more so like the articulation of, like, what is the podcast doing? And it goes back to the omnipresence. So once I started seeing that, and I started asking them, like, how much are you guys charging? Some of them were saying they was charging $20,000, $10,000 to find 10 or 6 podcasts to take this individual person that's a high profile individual, a high earner, and they don't have time to do the research on podcasting. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So by default, I have a list of 30 of those people now, 30 of those podcast recruiters all over the world that, again, I give them carte blanche to just put people on my show. So that becomes my pipeline. That becomes my input data. And then when somebody sees my launch form, it's two options. Like you said, it's a free option. And again, I'm spitting out content every single week. I record anywhere from 3 to 9 episodes a week, easily. And
That's
by
huge.
doing
Like,
that,
I can't even imagine. I'm doing one a week, and I'm like, but this is your full time.
I mean, everything that I do, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur, like I said, since my son was 5. He's 16. So I've been out of corporate America for at least 11 years. Solid.
So you're doing 3 to 9 shows a week.
Correct. And again, if I'm going to launch your episode, I have the model split. We can do the lives, we can do the YouTubes, but my real target audience, to where I'm getting 10, 15,000 downloads per month, is in the audio files. It's not in the video. It's not in Instagram. It's in the audio. So like, that's the real meat and potatoes of why we have the credibility. So if you want to be in that stream, well, there's a backlog. We've released about 140 episodes, and we've recorded over 300 episodes. So our backlog is about 160 episodes. And if we're releasing 1 episode per week, by default, that's going to push you out till next year. So then I said, okay, you know what? How do I fix this? And the only way to fix this is to monetize it. So I was like, okay, if you want an opportunity to get your podcast aired in the next 3 days, I'll record it on Monday, have my team chop it up, clean it up, get the artwork done, and we'll launch that bad boy Wednesday or Thursday of that week. It's going to cost you $200, which is essentially nothing for a marketing strategy. Nothing.
Cheap.
So the goal is when you have that, and then you have these people that are just putting people on your list, again, they're going to say, okay, here's Boss Uncaged. It's a great show. I had somebody on there that was, I think he had just sold his company for like $500 million, something crazy like that. He looked at it and it had 2 options: $200, get your show aired now, or wait a year. Makes perfect sense. They just spent $10,000. So that's just one of the monetization sets that makes it very easy.
Ray, I will introduce you, Master Guns, to S.A and get you on there. So we'll talk. Ray Gagnon. We used to call him the silver tongue devil, because he could sell. This is one of those guys, when you hear the story of ketchup popsicles to a woman in white gloves.
Oh shit!
She's probably buying 2. And this is who trained.
Sounds like, man.
She might be buying boxes, and this is somebody who trained me, and I say that in a very loving manner. He's heard this a million times. He trained me on how to do what I do, and how to respect the craft. That's truly what it was. More than anything, we just met the other day and had a great breakfast, but it's really about respecting the craft and respecting what we do, and trying to take the cheesy sleazeball out of sales, and just showing people that, look, I've got something that can help you. Let me show it to you. The guy's amazing with that. So we'll get you guys tightened up there. But what are some of the other? Now, you said there's more than one way. So that was the one that, for me, I was doing Saturday shows, and this is something that I'm putting together, and I have no problem in putting it out for people, that I used to do Saturday shows, and they were kind of like, my family was okay with it. But then I realized I'm taking my Saturday to put you on my show as something for you. My show is Wednesdays. If I'm doing Saturdays, I'm doing that for you.
Yep.
And I was doing it for free. So that's one of the things that's going to be on my website is, hey, if you want to do a Saturday show, I'll do a Saturday show with you. But there's a monetization to it.
Yep. Supply and demand. It's 100% supply and demand, because at one time I had 5 days a week booked, Monday through Friday. Then I reduced it to Tuesday through Thursday. And I have my Mondays and my Fridays to kind of run the business or whatever. But what I've done is that if you do select the 290, the 197 or whatever it is, then magically when you check that calendar, Monday and Friday happens to be available. You see what I'm saying? So it kind of, if you want, I mean, we live in a world you got to pay to play. And I've spent 3 years, like I said before, articulating this craft to make my podcast not only effective, but official, but build legacies, not only for myself, but for the person that I'm interviewing. I'm doing the research. I'm doing the due diligence. I'm talking to them about shit that they did 10 years ago. Some shit they talked about on some TED Talk when they were like 15 years old. Shit that they didn't even remember or think that I would have access to. So I do my work. So by doing that, that's why the show is being successful. I put the effort into it.
So that's interesting. So, and the reason I say that's interesting to me is it's so different from my process. And I want everybody to hear this, that if you're thinking about doing a podcast and you're listening to some of the greatest audio minds that have ever been out there, and if you don't like, I don't care if you like what Howard Stern does and Howard Stern's content, I will promise you
Yes.
that guy is a multimedia monster. Even to this day, he's not on terrestrial radio, but that dude still, you don't get paid $500 million
Mm-hmm.
and now basically owns a majority stake. I believe it's a majority stake. I have to double check myself in Sirius Satellite Radio. It's unbelievable what that guy's able to do. He has a research team.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that a lot of what I do, I hope, from that standpoint, is more his way. But I feel like there's the other side to it is the Larry King way.
Mm-hmm.
Larry King knew everything about his guests when they came on. Larry knew everything because he came from the news side and the reporter side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of what you sound like to me, S.A, is you approach from that side. I have people all the time and they're like, "Do you sit down and research your guests?" No. What do you mean no? I know who they are, I know what they're about, I know what they're bringing to the table. But I want to be as surprised as the audience when I hear something.
I would say you're doing yourself a disservice.
Okay, please.
And the reason why I say that, think about the first time you and I had that conversation, right?
Right.
Like we made a bond. Like we were communicating, we were talking, and we was like, "What's your background? What's my background?" And it took us about 30 minutes to kind of really get engulfed in that conversation. And like you said, it ran well into an hour, right? But it takes about the same amount of time offline, even more so in 30 minutes to an hour. You could do way more research. And when you come to the table, in the first 5 minutes, you can make that direct connection. In that first five, that's okay. One of the things that I do on my show is a little trick of the trade that once I realized that it worked, I was like, holy shit, it's a no-brainer. I always give my guests a nickname. And that nickname is always associated to a principle of what they do, what they sell, or a keyword that is highly repetitive on their website. That is my formula. So I would sit there and go through their Twitter, their Instagram, their YouTube, and I'm listening to 5 minutes here. I may read something there. And if I start seeing the pattern of this keyword, I'm like, well, shit, that's their nickname. And then what I'm going to do later on, you got merchandising, right? So if I decide to then create an entire Boss brand, which I already have the Boss Uncaged store, then I can go in and say, okay, this is John. He is the executive boss. This is Susan. She is the realtor boss. And I can make these shirts. And then all realtors would want the realtor boss shirt. All photographers would want. So again, these people are helping me build out this system behind the scenes that I haven't released yet for monetization that's going to happen later on.
All right, what's my nickname? I need it.
You haven't interviewed yet.
Ha! Come on. God. I thought I had one.
I would say definitely when I get you on the show, you're going to have one. But again, even though I know you, I still think it's credible for me to do the research because it may be a little thing, some little shit that you're not thinking about. And I'm going to be like, that's it. And so everyone that's listening to the show, they may think it may be the bar boss. I guarantee you it's not going to be that. It's going to be something that's very personal and detailed to you that lets you know that I know who the fuck you are within the first 5 minutes of that show. Because that's the worst part of a podcast is the first 5 to 10 minutes. Because the person you're interviewing is going to talk you to fucking death. They're going to throw up everything. How do you get past that? You got to let them know, let them trust you as quick as possible. And that's how I do it.
I love that. See, for me, it's, I use old sales rapport building. I have enough to start a conversation, but I use a lot of open questions that I can go to, and be like, hey, so, you're talking about this. Tell me about it. Boom, 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 boom. And keep using open questions until I have to use closed questions. And I use that for the rapport side. And that's how I build it because I love the shock factor. I love to be shocked by it. And real quick here, Master Gun's throwing up some stuff real quick. What he's talking about with what you're doing, it's gold. Far more valuable than a couple $100 for exposure. Absolutely. And he says, yes, he would have a nickname for me, but totally inappropriate. Yes, because he knows enough about me. But I just love that there's different approaches. So if you're out there and you're thinking about a podcast, I love S.A.'s process. He has a process. I have a process. How many times did you see your name pop up this week on social media that wasn't yours.
Yeah, and I was definitely highly impressed by it because I was like, okay, like you're doing the front end marketing, which most people they don't do the front end marketing, right? But
That's
again,
it.
I don't know if that's automated or if you have a team manually doing it because we didn't talk about it yet.
That
So
is 100% me.
okay, so my next thing, automate that shit.
But see, I've talked about that. Now, what do you use for your automation process? Do you have, or you have a team?
I have a team, but I also like it's funny because my team they understand that okay, I am never going to replace you as a team, but I may replace what you do on this team. And what that means is like I'm a real big component of startup companies and lifetime deals. And I think most people they don't even know what a lifetime deal is. They're like, "What the fuck is a lifetime deal?" Well, think about it. Prime example, Zapier. If you ever heard of Zapier, is an automation platform that plugs into multiple different other things that does things for you repetitively without you having to do it. Maybe 3-4 years ago, Zapier had a lifetime deal that they would give you like unlimited access to use their platform as a new user to help them grow their platform for $80 for life versus spending $80 or $90 or $100 per month right now. So once you understand that these things are in existence and you get into the Facebook groups, you get into the websites, and then you start searching for keywords. I'll search for keywords every damn day. I wake up in the middle of the night cold sweating. Okay, I need to figure out how to automate this shit. And I'll type in the code word and oh, they got something. Oh, it's $49. And then I'll look at the video and I'm like, okay, who is doing this on my team right now? How is this going to help them? How is it going to save them time? Make their jobs 10 times easier or give them something that they really want to do versus doing nuanced bullshit tasks. And at the same time, I'm saving money. I'm only going to spend for that platform one time and I don't have to pay that employee hours anymore and I can put them on another task. So every single time I find that opportunity, I'm also scaling my business.
I so agree with that. It's funny you talk about the lifetime. We were talking about StreamYard.
Mhm.
I've been with StreamYard. They started maybe 6 or 8 months before I got on their platform. And not long, they had changed some prices, but they actually reached out to me and were like, look, if you want, we can put you on the lifetime price. It'll never change. And it was a lower price. I still got to pay every year, but they were like, we're going to go up in price.
Mhm.
If you want, because you've been with us for so long, we'll put you at a lower rate,
Mhm.
but you just got to pay it up now. So I did it.
Yeah.
It physically, I pay for the rest of my life, as long as I'm podcasting, as long as I'm with those guys, $400 a year for StreamYard.
Which is not bad.
It's a steal.
Yeah.
It's a steal for what this is. And there's a couple of them, like all the AppSumo stuff.
Mhm.
That's another example. I recommend that to people all the time. They're like, if they're looking for like mail send outs, like Mailfox and all that stuff, they're all part of the AppSumo group, and
But
they're
it's the
always.
beautiful part. The beautiful part about AppSumo is that like you can type in mail and there's going to be more than one application. Because
You're
like
the one that kicked me over to those guys. You're the one that sent me
oh,
there.
okay. I was like, say, it sounded like you was talking like me for a minute right there because it's like AppSumo, it's a game changer. Game changer.
It's so convenient. You pay one price, rest of their life.
Mhm.
Here it is. And I tell people all the time, if you're looking for stuff and you're looking to get into this, it really is. It's amazing. Now, I'm curious about something with Boss Uncaged because I know I did it here. How have you seen Boss Uncaged, the podcast side to it? I know we just started the book group. You've got the Boss Uncaged Foodies, which is ridiculous. Those pictures, it's bullshit. It just makes me hungry when I watch them. And then you have the Boss Uncaged podcast, uh, bossuncaged.com. How has Boss Uncaged itself evolved
Oh, yeah.
from what you thought it was going to be? Because I know how I thought my show was going to be, to what it is today when you hit your comfort zone of what you know what it is.
So I mean, all the things that you listed are kind of like my omnipresent stuff. They're just like my free items out there. But like my real monetization behind the scenes is more so being a consultant, writing my books, right? I also have a Boss Uncaged Academy that kind of teaches what I do and what we do at Boss Uncaged collectively for ourselves, amongst other people. And then I'm also working on the Boss Uncaged Accelerator, which is essentially taking our business model of Boss Uncaged into podcast, and then we're doing that as a done for you service for corporations.
Oh
So
wow.
So that type of stuff, I mean, I don't even like broadcast it because again, I'm just filling up my pipelines, right? And I have access to so many different tentacles, but I want to keep them. I've learned my lesson from my first stroke, right? I don't want to get too thin. Like, why travel agent, insurance agent, Series 6, fuck all that. I'm a media person. I'm going to stay in my media realm. And what I'm going to do is make all these things work. I've written 8 books. So then I'm going to continue to write books. I've done a successful podcast. I'm going to stay in podcasts. I've got a graphic design degree and I got a web design degree. How do I put all these things together and become like the best catch all consultant to help someone with their media outlets? And that's where I'm at right now.
So really that's the podcast has really opened those other doors to you, or was it the other way around?
Because I already had an agency. I still got the trademark on my original agency. I still hold the S corp and all that stuff on my original company, but I went through a rebrand. So like year 1 was 2020, and that was the first time anyone has even known me as S.A. Grant, first of all, and second of all, heard the word Boss Uncaged. So from then until now I finally made that transition to where everyone before was Chanel Grant and Cerebral 360. So it took me, that was like 15 years worth of work. How the hell do I like transform from that and become Boss Uncaged? And I've effectively done that, but it took 2 to 3 years of drilling down, branding my ass off day in and day out until where this brand outweighed the other brand.
Now you brought up the brand piece, and I'm a big fan of branding. I truly believe that people don't put enough into it. They think that, and I'm going to tell you something right now, folks. And this was something that I had to be educated on. Don't be cutesy. Don't be overthinking. If you look at some of the best brands that are out there, that if I sat that in front of you, they're very simplistic. Coca-Cola is the globe's most well-known brand on the planet. Is Coca-Cola. What used to be the most, I don't remember what the right term is, but the most profitable brand used to be Ferrari on the planet. It's now Lego.
Makes sense.
But if you look at their brands, they're very simple. I initially thought, wow, I'm gonna have these really thought-provoking and it's gonna get into your head brands. What is the advice you give to people when they're looking to create a brand for themselves, no matter what it is? What is some of the advice you give them?
It's funny because I had a podcast today and he was talking about his brand. And again, I would say collectively, if you're going to develop a brand, first of all, it needs to be iconic. It needs to be symbolic. It needs to be extremely simple. It needs to be where a 3-year-old can point at it and say, McDonald's. Look at the McDonald's logo. Like there's nothing on that. It's a fucking M. That's it. It's a big ass golden double arch. But every kid in the damn world, when they see it, no matter where you are on the highway, back street, if they're walking through a damn alleyway and they see that yellow arches, they know what the hell it is. So think of, like you said, all the brands. Apple, for example, it's a fucking apple. There's no extra shit on it. There's no extra grade. It's the simplest damn thing. And the reason why for that is the psychology behind it is that the translation from age groups and for individual people to see something so many damn times. You want somebody to see it enough times that you can give them a piece of paper and say, draw it. If they cannot get remotely close to that illustration of what your brand is, you have officially fucked up.
I love it. And again, Ray's hanging with us tonight. Spot on fire. Absolutely. The one that I always get is when you don't realize the hidden symbols in brands.
Yes.
FedEx.
For example.
Yep. FedEx. That is the number one I go to is the FedEx.
And what is it? Just a fucking arrow. It's just a simple ass arrow.
That's it. How many people have missed the arrow in FedEx?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in everything. I mean, even Wendy's. Like, if you ever notice the Wendy's logo and all of them, underneath her neck has "mom" written in her chain. It's O and M's. So if you look at Wendy's logo and you actually zoom into it, it's gonna fuck your head up because now every time you see Wendy's, you're gonna see "mom" written on it. And again, if you're a brander, you do these shits intentionally. You make it to where people could start seeing things and start getting ownership of what they think that brand means to them.
That's so damn true. Have you ever had to tell someone and I imagine you have, but have you ever had to tell someone, shit can that brand? That's bad. That's bad.
I try to do it with a smile on my face, but it's one of those things that you see bad brands all the time, right? And again, it's difficult until you get that trust, until people hear you as a name brand yourself, until you have that clout. Like Gary Vee. Gary Vee can tell McDonald's their logo is fucked up, and McDonald's may think about it. Hey, we probably need to change our logo because Gary Vee said our logo is fucked up. It comes with that trust and that credibility behind it. Until you have that, and if you're starting to debate and fight with that customer, that's not the right customer for you, and you're not the ideal person for them. You should be able to tell someone that not only you don't have to dictate to say, I'm the professional, I've been doing this forever, but you can easily say, this is why it's not going to work. Historically, this is why it's not going to work. If you state the damn facts and they still debating it, cut their ass loose.
I think you just bring up a great point that I think is the hardest thing for new businesses to say no. I don't need your money. Because if you're a new business, you're trying to create revenue wherever you can, and you think, well, down the road I'll cut that person off. For now, I need their money.
Yeah,
that's
you
tough.
gotta eat. You gotta eat.
Oh, it really is. You're just bringing up such great points for the podcast, or for the branding person, for the business person that's thinking about this. Now, having conversations with people, do you think, if you're going into a business, do you think today, in today's market, today's business, thinking about that omnipresence, should every business have a podcast?
I would say in today's world, and I actually listened to one of your episodes, and you asked that same question, and I'm in alignment with him to a certain extent. I think it's kind of like if you go back to the early 2000s, if you had a business and you didn't have a blog, you made a mistake. In today's world, you can create a podcast pretty easily, at least get started and start building your community, because that's really what it's about. It's about giving information to a community where people are signing up, much like they did back in the day with television versus radio. Every single day, we're going to go watch some soap opera, whatever the hell it is, at 3:00. And you wanted to be there because it wasn't no DVRs. It wasn't on demand. Well, podcasting kind of fills that void to a certain extent, right? It's that bridge between those two. So once you have that content, then you want to deliver that content very frequently enough to keep people hooked on it. And if you're not doing that, how can you do that, right? How can you not do that without having a podcast? Who the fuck goes to websites anymore? And if they do, it's usually through a mobile device or through social media. And if you actually have their captured attention, it's usually video or audio when they're working out, in the kitchen, in the car, putting the kids down to sleep, washing clothes. In their downtime is when you can capture them. Because again, if I'm busy working on something, I'm not going to be able to pay attention to that podcast because I'm trying to think and I can't hear what they're saying. I can't watch what they're doing while I'm doing what I'm doing, while I'm working, while I'm doing something. It's 100% in the downtime.
And it's funny you mentioned the website thing. And I know we were talking about them earlier, and me putting one together and all that. But I also think about, I can't tell you how many websites I go to now that are so cluttered. They are such a cluttered space. I have a squirrel's brain when I'm looking for something. I want to click on it. I want to go to it. I want to give you the information I need, and I want to move on. Yeah. Please don't add extra shit. Please don't run your squirrel logo in front of it. Get it out of my way. I want to click on it, and I want to be done. Please, I just need to be done. Yeah. Because like you said, I don't have time. It's such a great point. Now, you talked about your omnipresent. I want to talk about some of the other stuff that you've got going on. So you just started the Boss Uncaged book club. Where did that come from?
So I started that in season 2 because again, I started it back in season 2. So I mean, we're in season 4 right now. But again, I think I just invited you to it, right? So I mean, and I do that strategy based as well too, right? So I mean, to answer your question, the reason why I started that book club is because season 1 I had like scripted, unscripted questions. And I started to see a pattern in people's responses. So first I was like, okay, what's your morning habits? What's your morning routines? And I shit you not, 4 out of 5 people would always say similar shit. We read a book, we read testimonials, we write something, or we meditate or whatever. every 4 out of 5 people. And I was like, okay. So then I started adding in, okay, what books are you reading? And then it went from, okay, well, what books helped you to get on your journey to help you to get to where you are? And then it was like, what books are you reading now? And then I was like, well, shit, I'm interviewing a lot of authors. What is your book? Like, what is your book about? Who's your book for? Who is it talking to? Who's that community? So by default, when I would ask those 3 questions in the series, I would get anywhere from 3 to fucking 12 books every episode. Referrals
Wow.
to someone that's creditable, someone that's read the book and is using that book today. So I was like, what the fuck am I doing? How do I leverage that? So the first thing I did, I started creating a database. I started going into my episodes and sourcing each one of the book titles and then going to Amazon and getting the links. And I was like, okay, I'm a crackhead. I can't do that shit all the time. How do I systematize it? How do I make this into a system? So then I started finding lifetime deals for software, and I started sourcing it and have my team to where at the end of every season, they're going to go back because they're already transcribing all the audio files.
Oh, wow.
So once they're transcribing the files, all thing they have to do now is go to every single transcription, type in the keyword for book. Usually the books are commented with the word book in that keyword. They'll go into it. The fucking title's there is transcribed. Go to set up my damn spreadsheet for me now. Episode 5, John made a recommendation for these 5 damn books. And then we take all that and we put it on a digital platform. So we have a website that's an online directory that partners with the Facebook group and everything else. And the monetization behind that shit is, well, obviously I'm an affiliate for Amazon.
So every time somebody goes on there, buys it, downloads it from you, you get paid off of it.
And again, it's gracious in the sense that, hey, if you are looking for books for real estate and I'm interviewing someone for real estate and they're telling you that their favorite book that helped them become a better real estate person is book A, and you never heard that book before, 9 out of 10 times you're going to click on it.
Absolutely. I have to ask this question for Nate because this happens on my show.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I have anyone, have you ever, so first let me ask this question. Have you ever interviewed anyone who does like tarot cards or spiritual stuff or any of that kind of stuff? Just give me the simple yes or no real quick.
I would say to a certain extent, yes. They're more business savvy. They're not just like Moko Jumbi and the sky's falling.
Right. So every time I interview a paranormal investigator or I've had Patty Negri on, who has her own network now for paranormal stuff. I've had the only Native American paranormal group, Unearthing the Supernatural, on every time. And I promise you, probably now that we're talking about it, my show fucks up. It is a guarantee. Like the audio will go out. Look, your screen just froze.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like it's almost like you probably start talking that shit into existence.
I'm telling you, and you didn't know I was going to bring that up. You didn't know Nate was going to bring that up. I can't control your screen. The minute we started bringing it up, your screen froze. So I had to ask you. He wants to know that does it ever take your podcast down? He doesn't interview enough of them, Nate.
No, I don't. I mean, like my core audience, and again, it's changed, right? First, it was my core index of individuals that I've worked with or have talked to and networked with before, and they're all business owners to some extent. And then it went from that to their referrals, and then now it's to the point to where I'm interviewing someone for the first time. It's the first time I've even heard of them or met them, but 9 out of 10 of them are multimillionaires at this point.
I love it. How about so that's where the book club comes from. How about the food side? Where does Uncaged Foodie come from?
So that was a rebrand, actually. So me and my guy Ike was part of that food group, and we went out to what we call Chinatown in Atlanta, and we were just eating, and I was like, dude, let's just start a food group. And I just put it up there, and the name used to be, I forgot the original name of it. And then I did the whole rebrand and became Boss Uncaged, and time went on, and then it started growing organically. And I was just like, how do I bridge these things? Because again, I'm not trying to have another fucking stroke. How do I bridge these gaps, right? How do I bridge these gaps? So the first thing was like, let me rebrand it, and I'm not going to call it Boss Uncaged. Let me call it Uncaged Foodies, because again, 2 words, simple. A foodie person could look at it and be like, okay, I'm expecting something a little bit different on here. Great. So what I'm doing on the back end now, as far as like the monetization and the long-term play on it, Well, I can easily now send out emails and communicate with people like I'm doing with the book club. So what I've done with the book club is if you have a book being released, now you can come on to like the Boss Uncaged book club podcast to where we'll do a live stream, talk about your book release. But I'm only communicating with people that have already been on the show before. So it's giving them dual marketing. One episode is about them and their story. The second episode is about them and that book. And now the third one eventually is going to be about, okay, if I ask you, why is that your favorite pizza? What did your mom cook for you when you were younger? What kind of meals do you like to cook for your family? So now you have 3 levels of marketing. You have the personal business side, you have the intellectual book side, and then you have the everyone has to fucking eat. That's the commonality. Like you said, push your stool in. Everyone has to push the stool out, right? So again, everyone has to fucking eat. And once you understand that, then it's a commonality, and I could bridge all of them together and put it underneath the umbrella of being Boss Uncaged.
You caught the double entendre?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I mean that's good because I tried to explain it to they were like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, if you go to the bar and you tilt your stool at a bar, that means I'm coming back." So, but the other side is don't leave your stool in the middle of the aisle, and they're like, "Okay, well, I don't understand the double entendre." And you're the kind of guy that would go to a bar and ask somebody, "Could you push their stool in for them?"
Yeah, you won't walk away. Well, you may walk away funny afterwards.
So, and let's see what bourbon goes. What bourbon goes? I'm going to tell you, Nate. I've drank a lot of bourbon in my life. I don't know of any bourbon that goes good with pizza. That's a
It'll have to be something fruity. It'll have to be like a
yeah. It would have to be like maybe raw. Like remember, all whiskeys are bourbons. Not all bourbons are or all bourbons are whiskeys. Not all whiskeys are bourbons. Yeah, I don't know any like I'd have to think about that. Like maybe something that was aged in like a sherry bottle or something, sherry barrel or something like that might be okay. Because I'm at the point now where like I drink all my whiskeys and bourbons neat. I don't put any ice in them. I've reached that point.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
Now we're gonna get into something here. So I have a list in front of me.
Oh shit!
I got a list. This list has never been brought out during this show. It's been talked about. You and I, when we first met, talked about this list. And this list, and it's got a date on it. I love the fact I didn't realize it had a date on it. This list was created July 7th, 2014 at 6:40 a.m.
Wow.
And this list came from me sitting next to an ADA from Atlanta on a flight and saying that I was down in Atlanta working for a railroad company. And I said, I found a couple of good places. And they're not some of the ones that aren't on the list. Have you ever been to Palookaville in Atlanta?
I have not.
That's what's the district where it's a neighborhood where it's got all these shops, but they look like little tiny houses. Like it's this whole strip.
You're talking about Helen, Georgia?
No, it's in Atlanta. It's see now I'm gonna have to look. But Nate, look up Palookaville for me. Palookaville. It's actually amazing in Atlanta because it had they had adult milkshakes in Palookaville. Palookaville, it's permanently closed now, but it was Estates, Georgia, Avondale Estates.
Oh yeah, I know where Avondale is, right off Memorial Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, see, but it's permanently closed now.
Oh yeah, so you're talking about like the downtown Avondale. Yeah, it does look like little houses. Yeah.
This is perfectly true. Corn Dog Palace. They made homemade corn dogs there.
It was right at the corner.
Yep, you know the place I'm talking about now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that was Palookaville. Love Palookaville. So I'm going to read this list to you.
Okay.
I want to know if you've been to them in Atlanta and if you're giving it a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay.
Fox Brothers. Thumbs up. Been there.
Yep.
They do an amazing, I don't know what you call it. Frito pie or walking taco. What do you call it?
I think probably more walking taco, probably more a better definition.
Mary Mac's.
I think I've had takeout from Mary Mac's. So, and if I remember right, yeah.
All right. We talked about Antico Pizza.
Haven't.
Yeah. You gotta do Antico. West Egg.
West Egg. I think I'm thinking about the other egg companies. Nope, don't know that one.
West Egg, I recommend West Egg on Sundays. They do pimento cheese grits, shrimp and pimento cheese grits on Sundays.
You got to post all this shit in the food group, man.
I'm gonna have to. I'll do this list. When this is over with,
Yeah.
I'll put this one here. Taco Rey del Sol, phenomenal.
Mhm.
Like some of the best tacos I've ever had. Nuevo Laredo,
Nope.
Atlanta Fish Market. I give Atlanta Fish Market a lot of credit for, and for those that don't realize it, Atlanta is a landlocked city.
Yeah, extremely.
And they've got amazing seafood at Atlanta Fish Market that they bring in.
Yeah, it's a premium for it as well, too. So,
Oh, you pay. Don't get that twisted. But there's an amazing comic book store around the corner. I don't remember the name of it, but down the block, there's a really impressive comic book store. Flying Biscuit.
Yeah, I mean, Flying Biscuit is an acquired taste if you like dry ass biscuits, but the biscuits are well seasoned. I'll give them that. So it's kind of like it's kind of the commercial now. So
last two that aren't on the list, Varsity.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's just kind of like if you went to Coney Island, you're not gonna go to fucking Nathan's. I mean, it's the same thing here.
How amazing is Varsity? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have?
Yeah.
How amazing. Like, I love Varsity. I almost got in a fight in Varsity.
It must have been the one in Atlanta.
Oh, absolutely. The one downtown Atlanta. Fresh out. I was still actually in the Marine Corps. Like, I had not like completely EAS'd yet. I was with a buddy of mine, Terrell, and some college girl from Georgia Tech. And if you didn't know, like, Georgia Tech is right next to Varsity.
Literally.
I was standing in line and she tried to walk around me. I looked at her. I was like, where are you going? I'm going to get in this line. I'm like, you can get in the back of it. Who are you? I was like, you definitely picked the wrong cat today. like, please don't look at me and look at who I look like and think I'm that guy. I'm not that guy. She took her ass to the back of the line, talking shit the entire time. And Terrell was like, my boy Terrell's from Jacksonville, Florida. Terrell was like, he's like, Murph, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, you thought she was getting up here? Yeah, that ain't happening. Other spot in Atlanta that I love. Have you ever been to Chick-fil-A Dwarf House?
Yes, I've been there. I mean, it's kind of like a nuance for Atlanta, right?
I love you, S.A.
Yeah,
you might have just become one of my closest friends in the
I'm
world
just
right
saying,
now.
it's like Chick-fil-A is based in Atlanta, so it's kind of like saying, "Have you ever flew on Delta?"
But I'm saying, like, the Dwarf House.
Yeah,
like the Dwarf House is different.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's common.
You can buy a burger there.
Yeah, it's different. But
one of the greatest food things that ever happened to me happened at that place.
I'm listening.
Okay, so Terrell, I'm telling you, Terrell's like fam, and we're hanging out there, and always listen to the waitress, and always listen to if she got a little sass to her, she knows her game. So the waitress walks up to Terrell and I, and she goes, we're looking on the menu. We're like both blown away that we're sitting at a sit down Chick-fil-A restaurant with a menu, just completely blown away by this. And she looks at us and she goes, y'all want to try something good? And Nathan and Terrell and I are like, well, yeah, obviously. She goes, you need to have the sweet potato souffle on top of a scoop of vanilla ice cream. Fucked me up. S.A. Messed. She brought out this vanilla ice cream, good vanilla ice cream, with a scoop of warm sweet potato souffle with the marshmallows in it on top of it with a little bit of crust, like brown sugar, like crust on top of it. Bro,
it's a game changer.
I'll put that dessert. Like, I know you're going to get ready to leave. I know you ain't that far away. I know tomorrow it's already 9:00. I know tomorrow you're going to drive up to Dwarf House talking about, do you have this? Brother, it was unbelievably good. I tell people all the time, I think Atlanta is one of the best unsung food cities in America.
I would have to concur with that. I mean, it's so many different sub-cities and subcultures to where it's becoming more and more like a New York or a Barcelona or an LA to that extent. It's getting very diversified, and you could find random shit that you would not be able to find anywhere else.
Well, you guys got a big Ethiopian population.
We got a pretty big, a little bit of everything. I mean, I think Buford Highway is the strip, right? So Buford Highway, like we got Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, we have like so much other different cultures that flock to that area as well. So you could literally get a Peking duck fresh in one window over here, and go get some yucca roots over here, and like literally all in that one strip.
I love it. That's why I say, and they never do food shows in Atlanta. Them food shows are never in Atlanta. Like, and if they are, it's somebody's barbecue joint that, there's one over by the airport that's real good. I've seen on a couple of food shows. I can't think of the name of it. But yeah, you never get enough out of Atlanta. So I'm gonna tell everybody, if you get a chance, go to Atlanta. You can go see a Braves game if you want to, I guess. I mean, all right. But you could eat your soul away. And we talked about a Scotch egg at the beginning. The Scotch egg is one of the most glorious things. It's a hard-boiled egg wrapped in sausage, fried with a dipping sauce.
Oh shit.
A Scotch egg would change your life. It's just one of the best appetizers ever made is the Scotch egg. Again, hard-boiled egg wrapped in sausage, fried with a dipping sauce.
Oh shit. Yeah.
And then they got a great beer down there. Sweetwater Brewery in Atlanta is amazing. They do Sweetwater 420 is a phenomenal beer. So I recommend that also. And it's an ale. It's not an IPA. It's an ale, I believe.
What's your thoughts on sours? Because we got some sours coming out of Atlanta nowadays too.
Dump that shit in the toilet and get rid of it. It is so. I'll get into this. So my wife and I have a phenomenal wife. She is down if we want to go somewhere, and I'm like, babe, we're going here and we're going to try this. Like, we have great breweries up here. Omegang's one. They did all the Game of Thrones beers. Was Omegang. The other one we have is called Ithaca Brewing up in Ithaca, New York. There's a big college town. So we're there, and I'm looking. I'm like, oh, everybody's talking about these sours. Fuck, I'm gonna have me one of those, bro. Do you drink kombucha?
Yeah.
That's why you like sours. That's why you like that shit.
Yeah, I actually got into that shit recently, so it was just like it's a ball game. But I drink seltzer water too, or if you go,
I like seltzer.
Water with bubbles.
I love seltzer water. I would drink seltzer water all the time. I think it's phenomenal. Kombucha tastes like armpit, and sour tastes like you just poured my beer through a dirty gym sock and wrung that shit out. Talking about like here, and that's some, what are they called? The guys that wear the glasses with no lenses in them. There's the term. What the hell's that term? It's like a whole group, like they want to look like lumberjacks, but they can't cut no wood.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, I can't think of the right term. Hipsters. That's some hipster shit. Like, I'm drinking a sour. You're drinking dirty piss water that somebody seltzers up for you. Please keep that. Oh God, it is so gross.
Oh shit.
Oh,
talk about dropping a solid ass opinion.
Oh God, I can't. Like, bro, they're so gross. Like, I can't. And I'm a firm believer. Like, I'll try again. Like maybe the first one I had was bad, and it just wasn't for me. Like, I know people that don't like IPAs, and I'm like, hey, if you don't like IPA, I completely understand it. Tell me which one you had. Oh, I had whatever local. I tell them, hey, try Sip of Sunshine from Lawson's Brewery. Sip of Sunshine from Lawson's is, for the longest time, was like one of the number one. And what they do is all of Lawson's stuff is shipped cold. It's made cold. It stays cold from the minute it's made, and it's shipped cold. You can't. I know the local company here in Albany that ships Lawson's, and we've talked about it. They're like, for us to be a Lawson's distributor, we had to promise that their beer would always stay cold. Sip of Sunshine from Lawson's will change your life when it comes to IPAs. But my son, who's down in Orlando, I could give him that, and he's like, Dad, it still tastes like fucking shit. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's an acquired taste. I mean, a terrapin is one of those things. Is like, once you learn to love it, then you love it. But if you don't like it, it tastes like a damn rotten tire. So,
oh God, it's like, oh God, and people who drink it the first time are like, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, you're lying. It's like bourbon. The first time you ever tried bourbon, you were like, "Oh, my
Gasoline.
whole entire face is on fire." And yeah, exactly. I just sipped gasoline. What are you doing to me?
Mm. But once you get that acquired taste for it, it's a game changer.
Oh God.
Mm.
Ugh, I can't even. but see, I used to like. Do you still like? Okay,
Mhm.
look, folks. If you're still hanging with us, I appreciate it because this is the way the conversation went with SA and I the first time we met. We
Mm.
just went in some left turn shit. Do you still drink any? What would be like cheapy beers?
Fuck
Do you
no.
still like? No, nothing.
Like that whole 40-ounce shit is out the fucking door. St. Ives
No.
Crystal Brew is out the fucking door. Budweiser out the fucking door. Like I'm not gonna say I'm a bougie drinker, but if that shit if it's not crafted, I'm not fucking with it. I just can't. It just tastes like ass.
Your life has been changed by taste. Now, I still love from back in Baltimore, Natty Bo, National Bohemian.
Mm.
It is, but you know what? It's if you talk to somebody from Pittsburgh, they probably will tell you they still got a can of Steel Reserve.
Mm.
If you go to Rochester or Western New York, they got Jenny Red Eye, Genesea. They're local pilsners that are still made locally that you'll never find nationally. Like does Atlanta have like I the only Atlanta beer I know is Sweetwater.
Yeah,
And we're starting to get it up here.
yeah, we got microbreweries everywhere. So I mean, I don't remember all the names of them, but you like if you're in Atlanta, like literally, you could drive to South or drive to Roswell, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is made in Atlanta, but it's just made 20 miles south of here." So I mean, it's a bunch of microbreweries popping up left and right.
Mm. You look, Master Gun, just throw it out. Utica Club. That is a straight up New York West. But now Utica, you want to talk about a food city,
Hmm.
bro? Utica, New York, is like this unsung food city in
Hmm.
America. If anybody out there is listening, it's from New Utica. Drop some places. They have things like chicken riggies. I know you ain't never heard of that.
No.
And it's like this chicken pasta dish, but it's almost like a Diablo sauce to it.
Mm.
They have Utica greens, which are very similar the same way, but it's like broccoli rabe. These
Mm.
greens that are so good. Have you ever had tomato pie?
Define it, because I've had shits that have been different terms.
So tomato pie, the first time I ever had it was in
Mm.
Philadelphia, and I thought it was a Philadelphia thing. So they argue, is it a Philly thing or is it a Utica thing? But tomato pie is a pizza with probably about half an inch thick worth of sauce on it,
Hmm.
and the only cheese on it is Parmigiana.
Mm.
So they bake it, they put the sauce on there, sprinkle a little Parmesan, maybe a little oregano. That's it.
That shit sounds great though.
Bro, I'm gonna tell you, you want to talk about good ass, cold, hangover ass pizza? That a tomato pie, and they're always square like Sicilian style.
Okay. They chop them up in
And
blocks. Okay.
yep, that's Utica's but that's another thing. That's what you know. What I just figured out. We have to do a post on Uncaged Foodies. Local foods to where people are at, like that, like nobody else would know about.
Yeah, I actually wrote an article about that. I was just like, as far as like living to your extent, right? So if I'm going to go to, and this is an example that I talked about in that presentation, going to Texas and eating Texas caviar, or
What is
going
that?
to New York and have Texas caviar. Essentially is corn. It's kind of like a salsa almost.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Like until you start doing like these, like me and my wife, we went to Spain recently, right? And she's in love with creme brulee. Come to find out,
Mm,
creme brulee was essentially developed in Spain in a city called Catalina. So we was like, holy shit, we're going to the birthplace of fucking creme brulee. So every night we went to a different restaurant, we had dinner, and if they had creme brulee, which 4 out of 5 of them did, we had creme brulee.
that's awesome.
So it was just kind of like, once you kind of find the regions, like, have you ever had a Manhattan in Manhattan? Have you ever had a Boston cream pie in Boston? That's like when you get to like traveling, like I mean, that's when you could really like
Love it.
document the shit that you're doing based upon the food of that region.
See that I'm all about that. I tell people all the time, you never would think of Boston for subs. That's never come up in a conversation a day in anyone's life. Boston subs. It's Philadelphia. I'm going to tell you right now, best chicken salad you will ever have in your life is a place called Al's in Boston, and it's $7 for a fucking foot long.
Hmm.
And I used to get mine when I worked for on the railroad. I would go to Al's, get a foot long with provolone cheese and Italian hots on a chicken salad.
So
And,
what kind of salad are you talking about? Are you more of like a zesty sweet salad or a salty salad or a bland salad?
look, I know you're looking at me and think I'm into bland, but that's not true.
Nah, I had to ask, man. So I gave you three options. Gave you three options.
I guess I like mine. See, I always put Old Bay in everything. That's just a thing. Growing up in Baltimore, I put Old Bay in everything. But I say my chicken salad, it needs to have a little salt and pepper, but a little zest to it, I guess. A little zest. But I like mine with Italian hots on top of it. And that's the only way I know to call them. I don't even know what else to call it other than Italian hots.
See, I like the relish of the sweet relish bite to it, and then fucking infuse that shit with like sriracha or some kind of really spicy paper. So you get like that sweet and then that heat, and then you keep eating it, and that heat just keeps building up, and you layer that motherfucker with some crushed red peppers and black pepper as well.
Oh, I love it.
So you get the 3 layers of that pepper as you continue to eat it.
There's another spot in Atlanta you just reminded me of. Ted and somebody's, like, it's 2 names. It's 2 names. There's a chain of them.
You're not talking about Ted Turner's.
No, that's the Ted's, which is he's got the other one. This is like 2 names, like Tim and Tracy, Ted and Steve's. You know, it's 2 names, but they got some of the best biscuits I've ever had. They might rival a Shoney's biscuit. And if y'all ain't never had a Shoney's biscuit will change your life. Shoney's yeast rolls are something special. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Shoney's biscuits are amazing. Yes, and Nathan, look, well, see, but Nate's talking about like Baltimore seafood. We have amazing seafood back home in Baltimore. I love my seafood. But you ever had a pit beef sandwich?
Oh.
And that's my thing. So I interviewed the Dave. His name's Dave. Dave is the creator of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. He was a news reporter. He wrote a book that they turned into Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. He's won Emmys and everything. And I told him this is something I wanted to do with him. And he was down for it. But he told me about how to get into TV. And I was like, man, this is crazy. But we talked about it. I wanted to get him in my RV and go cross country and go to individual cities where people have exited their own home countries as refugees and settled in the United States and found ways to create dishes from their home countries in the U.S. and how those would be perceived. And it would have been great with Dave because Dave's probably late 60s and here I am in my 40s, completely different backgrounds. He's from the Jersey Shore area. I'm from Baltimore. I was like, this would be phenomenal. The 2 of us just riding around in an RV and going and doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a niche. I mean, talking about like niching down, because I mean, like you're bringing up all these like American dishes, and I'm like more so like a Caribbean person, right? I was born in the islands, so I could talk about fucking iguanas and all types of other shit that in America they probably be like, "What the fuck is that?"
You want to have some? You would like my oxtail.
Oh yeah. I mean, oxtail. I mean, it's always a signature thing. It's like, okay, what do you put in your oxtail? Like, we're gonna start with that. Like, how do you cook?
So the oxtail recipe I have actually is very different than a Caribbean oxtail where your sauce is very much a brown gravy. The recipe that I have that I started making actually makes almost more of a roux for the gravy. So you batter the oxtails, fry them in a pan, and then drop them into the crock pot, and you make a roux out of the drippings that you pour over top of the oxtail and then let it cook the rest of the day.
Yeah, so in the islands, they're usually like, let's call it like brown stewing. So whether they'll burn the sugar in oil, and like that becomes the base, and then you put the meat in it with all the vegetables and everything else, and then all that shit simmers together. So I mean, it's to your point. I mean, I think they're very similar, but they're distinctly different when you eat them when the finished product.
100%. Like mine's amazing over mashed potatoes. I would want, when I have, like, we have a couple of great restaurants up here in the Albany area. when I have their oxtail, I want it with cabbage. I want it with fried cabbage. If it's not fried cabbage, I'm probably not. There's a problem there in my book.
Yeah, see, for me, it's kind of like if you ever had like traditional Caribbean rice and beans with like heavy gravy from the oxtails, or roti with oxtail.
Oh, bro, can I tell you about some roti for a minute? And you heard the way I said it, roti. You
I
heard
hear
that,
you.
right?
Yeah, I heard you.
So, and God, if you're still sticking with us, folks, thank you so much. Because this is just two assholes talking at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I had this guy we put in the Marine Corps. I was in Reading, Pennsylvania. I was the NCOIC of the station,
Mhm.
and God, I can't remember his name to save my life. But I'll tell you right now, one eye would look at you, and the other one would look around the corner. Great dude though, big sucker too. Like he was very. You know what I mean by island big?
Yeah.
Like he was island big, and he used to always tell me he would be like Goni, and he was like 6'2". He's like Goni, my mama 6'6". She come here and whoop
Uh,
your ass, and I'm like, bro, I ain't worried about your mother in no way, shape, or form. He'd be like, my mama come here and whoop your ass. So he used to always pick me up roti from the city and bring it to me, and I had some amazing roti. But the best was he would stand at my door with that crazy ass eye of his, and he'd be like, and I'd be like, bro, you need to leave. He'd be like, Goni, keep messing with me. I put the dopey on you. I put the dopey on you. And I was like, and finally one day I was like, what the hell is the duppy? What
mm,
the hell? He's like, oh, you don't know the duppy. The duppy's an evil spirit. He come for
oh,
you, Goni. And I'd be like, bro, your 6'6" mom and your duppy need to get the hell out of my office. But he was a great kid.
where was he from?
He was I want to say his family was like Trinidadian.
Yeah, so am
Uh
I. So
yeah, I want to say that's where they were from, but he used to always be talking about I put the dopey on you.
mm.
And I was like, it,
It's funny when you talk about like multiple dialects, man. And like I think U.S. is the same shit. Like the Southern dialect is completely different than the Midwestern versus the up north. So it's the same thing in the islands. It's like this diversity of the same shit said in different ways.
oh, well, I grew up in the mid-Atlantic.
Mm,
Growing up, Baltimore, Delaware, Pennsylvania, that mid-Atlantic area, completely different than anything else.
mm.
We're so different. And it's funny when I'm up here in the New York area, can't tell you many people will be like, so you're from like Georgia, right? Like from Georgia. I'm like, nope,
Nope.
nope, not in any way, shape, or
It's
form.
a whole different swang, man.
And they're like, really? And I'm like, I'm from Baltimore. They're like, I would have never known. So we're gonna get right, brother. You and I could probably do this all night long.
I mean, I don't book anything after 5 o'clock. So I mean, so
And
you
I
got
don't book anything before then.
so,
uh, kids get put to bed, and I do my thing. So how often? What days? I know we have shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays when you're recording.
mhm.
What are your release dates?
So based upon the analytical data, Tuesday mornings at 5 a.m.
Tuesday mornings, 5 a.m. New show will come out.
Yep.
And if they want to watch you live, it's podcast.bossuncaged.com.
No, if they want to watch me live, I mean, you just have to kind of figure out the channels that I'm on. So I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whichever one works for you, then log in. But I would say like the lives are just me kind of just getting that content out and putting it out there live for whoever's in that environment. But I think the episodes being released, the audio only ones, are like the really, because again, I think if you're listening to the podcast, you're not watching the podcast, if that makes sense.
No, that absolutely makes sense to me. There's a lot of us that are exactly that way. And Master Guns, I've never been to Brass Ball Saloon. I know Brass Ball Saloon, but when I'm in Ocean City, Maryland, it's all about Thrasher fries with Old Bay and malt vinegar on them. That's my thing,
Hmm.
bro. Malt vinegar on fries. My wife hates it. I put them on there all day long. Nothing like it.
Oh, I mean, shit, you can go to France and then put mayo on it. So each his
Uh,
own, right?
well, that's it. I'll have to tell you something after the show. I don't want to give away one of my secrets. I'm gonna give away a secret to you after the show, though. I got to figure out a way to do an after show recording.
Yeah, I heard you was talking on an episode about. I think they have not done that yet. to allow. Once it's done, it's done.
That's it. Like that's my only thing for StreamYard, and I've talked to him about it before. I've sent him messages. Is I would love a way that when this ends and you and I are done, to be able to cut the recording and then do an after recording at the same time, that I could mark it as, hey, you want to know what we talked about after the show that I hinted at? You need to go ahead and pay for that.
Yeah, you put it behind a paid wall.
Yeah, put it behind a paywall. And I know some people are like, why you keep talking about pay? Look, you go to your job and you do it. You listen to this and you enjoyed it. Trust me, I put some effort into it.
Well, I mean, I think that brings up a really good point about like why do people bring up pay? And again, like it's based upon supply and demand, right? If you have people that are demanding your content and they want premium content or they want inside content or they want behind the scenes or they want exclusive talk to you type, then obviously you're gonna have to pay to play because you're only one person.
That's it. You just brought it up. Do you want the extra that nobody else is getting?
Yeah, exclusivity.
That's it. Exclusivity. So so they can find it bossuncaged.com, podcast.bossuncaged.com. You've got the Uncaged Foodies on Facebook. You've got the book club. If you're looking for the podcast on Facebook, it'll actually come up as Boss Uncaged, and then you'll see with S.A Grant. You can find him on LinkedIn at Chenol Grant with a check mark in front of it. Instagram, if you type in Chenol Lee Grant, it'll pop up on Instagram.
That's actually my personal. So again, S.A. If you type in S.A Grant or Boss Uncaged in any one of the platforms, because I just learned I got two accounts for each one of them.
Gotcha. So any one of those locations, make sure you're reaching out to S.A. Make sure you're checking him out. Make sure you see him what he's got going on. As we said towards the beginning of the show, I'm going to repeat this real quick. If you've got a sticker and a cause, you got something you're supporting, or you got somebody that you think might be a great guest and you think might be good on here, like my man Nate, he's getting ready. I want to make sure I plug this for him because he always takes good care of us. He's getting ready to be on another he's got involved with a paranormal show, and it's called Funhouse. And it's called Paranormal in the Funhouse. It's a podcast he's supporting now, and he's working with those guys. He's great at finding guests. So make sure you check out that. He's actually going to be on that Paranormal Network. So make sure you check him out. And I just recorded an episode with our former guest, Devon. He's got a show called Drugs. Oh, God, I just forgot the name of it. But it's Sex, Drugs, and Jesus. He's got a podcast called Sex, Drugs, and Jesus. Very interesting gentleman who very worth checking out. Thanks, Master Guns. I appreciate it. So make sure you check that. That's coming out September 15th. You can listen to me on that one. Make sure you check out all S.A stuff. You can go see what he's got. Make sure you come like, share, follow. If it's the first time you found us through S.A, please give us a like, follow, share. We're on everything is the Above the Bar podcast. That's my branding. I made sure that everything said the Above the Bar podcast and had this beautiful face wearing a fedora. Look at his face. Face on only an inmate could love.
I'm catching up to you. I'm getting there.
You get, you know what? I even got into, God, see, this is how this works for guys like us. I even hooked up my buddy. Be on the lookout in Movember. If you don't know what Movember is, that's the No Shave November stuff. I was just talking with Doug from over at Doug Smythe from Phoenix Shaving. I think we're going to do a giveaway in Movember for some facial hair care products. And he's got some high quality, I've now gotten his hand, hand-free wash. It's called, he's got one called Diver Down. And bro, I put it on before I go into meetings and it always smells like I just got a fresh haircut. Do you know how everybody loves the smell of a fresh haircut?
Yeah, it's a distinct smell for sure. It's like a new car, man.
That's it. So I always feel everybody's always smiling when I see them. So, because I'm going to blame that. So don't go away after this. We got a couple things I want to talk to you about, brother. But as we do on every single episode, this is something that has to happen. The guest always gets the last word. So what's the last word for us?
Wow, last words. So you're talking about insightful words of wisdom to leave behind for someone, whatever the hell I want to, right?
Whatever the hell you feeling.
I would say, you and I, we talked about a lot of different things in this particular episode, and I think we dropped a lot of different insight, jewels, and nuggets. And the only thing I want people to do is to take action on it. I mean, taking this information in and making notes, not doing anything with it is fucking pointless. take action on at least one thing that we've said. Start with one step and build from there. Because again, I wasn't always a podcaster. You weren't always a podcaster. I wasn't always an entrepreneur. You'll figure the shit the fuck out the faster you get to doing it.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.